Dem Canes 01. James Williams said just because the Miami Hurricanes aren't in his top three doesn't mean they are out. If we ball this year, things can change.
Prove it. I mean, James Williams, 5-star All-American. He's 6'5", 210 as a safety. I mean, he's the prototype. He's huge. He's massive. He moves like somebody who's much smaller than his size. Hits like a Mack truck. Great ball skills. He's played some offense in his career. Everybody in America wants James Williams. This is not a surprise. Ever since he was at American Heritage. Wait, wasn't he at Monsignor Pace before he went to Heritage, before he went to Western, and then back? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, this is a guy that's been known. Because, I mean, he had a growth spurt when he was young, so he's always been 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" in high school. Because he was like 6'2", 6'3" as an 8th grader. It maybe even 6'4" by then. Prove it, though. I saw, and I respect them. I just disagree. David Lake from 247 Sports, he said, don't overthink it. History says that Miami is going to win plenty in 2020. And I said, with all due respect, all of the scenarios that you're basing that on were the same for 2018 and 2019, and Miami did not win a lot. So they don't have the benefit of the doubt. They have to go prove it, go show me. And if they show me, then they're going to show James Williams, and hey, maybe things do change. If you hit that, standard that everybody wants to do, which is win 10 plus games, compete for the ACC championship, things like that, yada, yada, yada. If you perform to that level, leveraging the talent on the roster and getting it to perform to the level of potential that there is, then yeah, things might change. But I can also win $1 million tomorrow or multiple millions of dollars tomorrow. That's not assured by any stretch of the imagination. Would it improve Miami's chances with James Williams if we won big throughout the year? Any big game, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Florida State, all these games, Michigan State in the non-conference, we're winning all those games. I mean, even if it's by a touchdown or more, but decisively, playing Miami Hurricanes football, this offense comes alive and looks different and yada, yada, yada. Could that change the situation with him or a lot of other people? Yes. If that were to occur.
It's basically the same schedule. If anything, it's a little bit lighter. Of course, you replace Florida with Michigan State, who shouldn't be nearly as good as the Gators are as a top 10 team. And you're replacing Louisville with Wake Forest. That's pretty much even money, 7-5 type teams right there.
That might step down because Jamie Newman's at Georgia now.
True. I look at it this way, that Miami plays a bunch of teams that are capable, decent teams that are like top 40, 45 teams. The Virginia Techs of the world, North Carolina, they could take a big jump. We'll see. They play a lot of teams that have like a 25 to 30% chance of beating them. Something in that range. But that 25 or 30% has been coming through at a much higher rate than it should. A team of Miami's talent should slip up once a year and maybe go 10-2. Lose to somebody capable of beating you that's on par. Like if you play 2 or 3 of those games, maybe you win, you split them, or you win 2 out of 3, and then you slip up. It's understandable against somebody else, and you go 10-2. But that's not been happening.
Right, exactly. Miami, like I said, Miami's biggest opponent. And I think, like you're talking about those other teams having a 25% chance of beating Miami if Miami were to play to peak optimization. Miami's not done that in these last couple of years, which is why I respectfully disagree with what was written by David Lake there. I get it. In theory, on paper, sure, Miami should win all these games and whatever. But you got to play these games. And that's where things have fallen short on the performance on the field. And again, Miami's done less with more than most teams, pretty much any other team in America in the last 15 years. So no, I am not going to just accept it on implicit thought that Miami is going to win to the level that we want. I need to see them prove it, and that's what I'm saying.
Do you think that overall that Miami's roster is comparable to Florida State's?
Right now, off the top of my head, I would say better.
Yeah, I would think so too.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think off the top of my head, I would say Miami's roster is clearly better than Florida State's. Again, I think that we were 1 percentage point or 2 percentage points different on blue chip ratio than Florida was last year. And then we had a very strong class, and then you end up getting Avante Williams, and then you take Isaiah Walker off of their class list and onto our roster, or off of Florida's roster onto our roster. So I think that Miami and Florida, and I hate to compare with them because I hate them, but on talent are very similar. Yeah, so I mean, but I think both of those rosters are more talented than Florida State's presently. I think that that's pretty clear.
And here we've got a Florida team that is expected against a much more difficult schedule to win 10 games.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, Florida's won 10 games. You know, there's a level of, I won't say certainty, but demonstrated performance there. I mean, you eke one out against Miami, which Miami could have won if we didn't, give up. Oh, wait, look, another sack from that game. You make a couple tackles and don't let guys get loose, guys who we said were going to be impact potential players in that game. You miss some tackles, you let those guys get loose. That's a game right there. So, yeah, I mean, we did lose to Florida, but it wasn't – we didn't get blown. I mean, it wasn't a Clemson game. It wasn't, oh, my God, I'm turning it off at halftime, whatever. Things like that. So, I mean, it stands to reason, again, on paper, with the talent that's on this roster and the specific players as well. When you talk about De'Aaron King, you talk about Quincy Roche, the current AAC Defensive Player of the Year from last season. You look at the Gregory Rousseau with 15 and a half sacks last year. You look at, I mean, it stands to reason that Miami should beat these teams. However, it also stood to reason that Miami should have beat Duke and FIU and several other teams that they lost to last year and have beaten Central Michigan by a larger margin than that. And I know that Jim McElwain used to coach at the Power 5 level, and he schemed up something to keep the game close. But it was more of Miami messing around that kept that game close than what Central Michigan was doing. So, yeah, if you're talking about comparable rosters and, things, and Florida being projected to win 10 games. But I'll also say this, Miami's win total or over under is 8.5 or 9 from every outlet that I've seen. And I've seen it from like 4 different people or 4 different outlets. So it's not like people are coming in and saying, like I said, 7-5 and prove me wrong. Most everybody is putting that line at 8.5 or 9, depending on if you're going over, under, or the win total. So it is out there that Miami should win. It's just incumbent upon Miami to actually win.
We all love college football, but it's a boring landscape. It's like 5-6 teams are competing for a national championship, and we all know who those teams are unless something changes. There's other teams across the country that I would think might be in a position to break through, but they have to deal with more difficult schedules and conferences than Miami. So I think of Nebraska. I'm coming up with, oh, shoot. Anyway, I had better examples in my head than that. This could be the breakout team of the year.
Or it could be 6 and 7 again. I mean, it could be true. I mean, yeah, there is an easier path for Miami than some other teams, but it's only easy if you do what you need to do. Because last year's path was very easy, and you saw that easy path was treacherous to traverse.
Yeah, when I think across the country about the teams that aren't elite or established, like a Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame as being a 10-win team every year, not quite at the college football playoff level, I look at North Carolina and I look at Miami, and I'm thinking, who's going to win that game and own that division? And sure, they'll probably lose to Clemson, but I'm not talking about have to go to the college football playoff to be a breakout team, a team that's going to come from North Carolina was 7-6 last year. Miami was 6-7 to a top 10 to 15 team. And I see major obstacles for the other teams that could do that in other conferences.
And again, the major obstacle for Miami has been Miami.
And North Carolina's got to deal with Auburn and UCF out of conference. So I know that doesn't affect their play in winning the Coastal, but in terms of having that kind of year where, bam, they go 10-2, and that's going to be difficult because of that.